tell you this.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Planning Board to order. If everyone will please rise and face the flag, pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, to the republic. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is the possible extension or abandonment of applications pursuant to town code. First one being Youngs Grove, Rieger. We have correspondence here from Engineering Surveying Properties, Steve Esposito, dated August 8th, 2025, addressed to the Chairman of the Planning Board. With this letter, we're requesting a spot on the August 21st, 2025 Planning Board agenda to request two 90-day extensions of the conditional preliminary major subdivision approval for the reference project. The conditional preliminary approval is scheduled to expire on or about August 21st, today. We have attached a summary of activities that have occurred in the past several months in an effort to complete the conditions of preliminary approval. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact our office. This is Progress Status Report number 22, dated August 8th, 2025. Again, the applicant is requesting two 90-day extensions of its conditional preliminary major subdivision approval. Since approval, the following items have been completed. 1, based on the current test results, we finalized the design of the water filtration system for submission to the regulatory agencies. We'll copy the town on all submissions. Submission pending based on the conclusion of item 3 below. Item 2, updated the proposed pump station and force main plans for resubmission to the New York State DEC. We'll copy the town on submission. Submissions pending based on the conclusion of item 3 below. You're all wondering what item 3 is. Okay, here it comes. The applicant is continuing a dialogue with the town board and village board regarding sanitary waste. Applicant petitioned the town board to extend the consolidated sewer and water districts to include Youngs Grove. And then finally, number 4, applicant received comments from the DEC regarding the water withdrawal permit that was submitted to the DEC on December 12, 2023. The applicant is responding to the DEC comments presently. Sean,
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman, just what's in the letter.
this covers what it is. Comments from the board?
They're in process, so let's give them an extension.
There's no comments. Kelly, what would the extension take us to?
February 19th, 2026.
Okay. Could I have a motion then to provide an extension to February 19, 2026 for the conditional preliminary planning board approval?
So moved.
Second by
I'll second it. Diane did.
Diana. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
And one abstention?
I guess I did, I'm sorry. I forgot I did that.
You're an abstention.
Yes.
One abstention.
It was so long ago.
Yes, it was.
Next item is IWS Transfer Station, the Goshen Transfer Station upgrades. We have a letter here dated July 24th, 2025, addressed to the planning board and town engineer, planning board engineer, planning board. On behalf of IWS Transfer Systems of New York, Cornerstone Engineering and Geology, PLLC, Cornerstone, submitting this written request for a 6-month extension to the site plan approval and special permit approval that will expire on August 21st, 2025, again today. We request that the IWS project be placed on the next planning board meeting agenda to consider these 2 requests for extensions for the proposed transfer station improvements project. We're also requesting an interpretation on the language of subsection 97-78E-1 pertaining to the requirements of obtaining a building permit within 18 months of issuance of site plan approval or expiration of the special permit. Sean,
Yes, Mr.
I
Chairman.
guess we have
So-
2 parts here.
Yeah, so IWS currently, right now, is seeking a solid waste management permit, which was a condition of this board's conditional approval, for them to do that with the town board. They have submitted a draft environmental impact statement, and the town board has determined that that was inadequate and did not meet the scope, so they are working to revise with EIS. They have been advised that this would be the last extension. If you remember, you granted that approval for a site plan on February 29th, 2024. And they will have, if you agree to this extension for the 6 months, they will have exhausted all their extensions, if not completed by then. And they're very well aware of that and trying to meet that
Stay
deadline.
within the 6 months.
Yes.
Comments from the board? Oh, what about that other item?
Which
Does
one's
that apply to us or not? The requirements of obtaining a building permit within 18 months of issuance of the site plan?
That's a request for an extension from the building inspector.
Okay, so we're only dealing with the first part. Comments?
None.
Kelly,
February 28th.
February 28th. Okay, could I have a motion then to provide the 6-month extension as requested to February 28th, 2026 for the site plan approval and special permit approval that are due to expire today?
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by? Okay, Eric, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Do I abstain, Kelly?
And 1 abstention. Neil, what are you doing up here?
I told you I had to rush up here.
Okay, next item on the list for possible extension or abandonment is Gerda subdivision. We have a letter from MJS Engineering and Land Surveying dated August 14th, 2025, addressed to the chairman and planning board regarding Gerda subdivision, the estate of Janet Gerda. As you are well aware, the planning board meeting on February 6, 2025, the board voted to accept the preliminary and final minor subdivision approval. To meet the specific conditions of a resolution of approval, the deed restrictions and the common driveway maintenance agreement are being prepared by attorney Chris Gerda, Esquire. These will be submitted to the planning board attorney for review. This demonstrates that the applicant is actively proceeding towards meeting the requirements of approval. And as such, we request a 90-day extension of the approval. Thanking you in advance for your time and attention to this matter. If you have any questions or comments, please contact the undersigned. Very truly yours, Brad Cleverly, P.E. Sean,
I don't have anything other than what's in the letter.
just what's in the letter. Comments from the board?
No.
Kelly,
February 19th.
February 19th.
6 month? We're giving them a 6 month even though they asked for 90 days?
I calculated 6 months. If you wanna give them 90 days,
Well,
then
they were only asking for 90, that's why I was wondering.
November 20th.
They'll love me.
I'm gonna tell Brad that you brought that up.
Please do.
Okay, in light
You're
of that,
trying to give your new attorney a little bit of extra time to review whatever they
All right, then go back to the
No, they asked for 90 days.
you're making my agenda a mess.
I'm
Oh, are we starting with November 20th?
November 20th.
Okay, and that's still 2025.
I
this time.
appreciate it, Kelly, thank you.
If Fannie can, as the lawyer, they can get it done in 90 days.
Could I have a motion then to provide the 90-day extension as requested to November 20th, 2025 for preliminary and final minor subdivision approval?
I'll place a motion.
Diana, second by Phil. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Or
You
did I-
can vote.
I'm in,
You're in this time, okay.
I'm in, right?
Perfect. Okay. Next item on the agenda, T-Mobile Northeast LLC, 24-1-113. It's an application for a site plan and minor wireless communications facility on 51 plus or minus acres on Pulaski Highway.
Uniplan was signed, so it doesn't need any
Oh,
extension.
it's done, okay.
She was questioning you.
Sorry.
Oh, why I asked for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took that off. That was resolved.
Okay. It was
Sorry about
just
that.
Still on here, so I wasn't sure.
Yep, not a problem. Now we'll start over again.
Sorry, no, continue on where you were.
Okay, located on 51 plus or minus acres on Pulaski Highway, County Route 9, Route 6 on the AI zone, AQ3 overlay. We're here tonight to discuss a draft negative deck and a possible draft resolution.
So this one was prepared a little different than normal. You have a short environmental assessment form. The short environmental assessment form has a second page, which is a part 3 and a determination of significance. Usually I prepare a second negative declaration that's outside of this document when you have something that is checked off that is at least one potentially small impact may occur. However, after reviewing the responses for the draft short environmental assessment form part 2, they all came back as no's. I didn't have any potentially small impacts from this co-location. So I decided it would be silly for me to give you a document that was extra. So what you can do is you can use the second page, and down at the bottom, you can check the box, which is the negative declaration. If you so choose, if you agree with the above, and it says check this box if you have determined, based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact. And that's considered the negative declaration.
Okay.
So it's a little different than you normally see because you usually have impacts. So, or potential impacts, I should say. But I wanted to explain that, so in case there's any confusion,
No, appreciate that, thank you.
it's different. But I don't know if anybody had any questions on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's straightforward, but it's different from every other application.
Yeah, you get it from the left.
Yeah, I had to get one easy one before I left. So if there's no questions, the board could adopt the SCAF part 2 and the negative declaration if you want.
Comments from the board? Nothing up to say? Okay, could I have said motion then?
I'll make it.
Neil, second by? Eric, all in favor, say aye. Against? Did you have anything to add, Sean, outside of the net deck?
No.
Frank, did you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Are you going to the resolution?
please.
Okay, so I drafted for you a resolution of conditional approval of minor site plan. I had a couple of small modifications. The first is on page 3, the part about the negative declaration will now not be in bold italics. There was a finding that I had put in, which I had cleared with Frank on page 4. However, there was actually a ZBA decision that I couldn't previously find, but Sean reminded me of the date, and so instead, we don't need to make this finding, there is actually a ZBA decision that I'll reference instead regarding the setbacks. And if Sean didn't remind me of the date, I'm sure Neil would have said, wait a minute, there was a setback variance there. I couldn't find it, but I now have it, so I'll fix that. And then there were several specific conditions, I can review them if you'd like. There was one change that I had regarding where it required bonding, and I believe at your last meeting, you said there was not gonna be any bonding required.
I have one question on number 3.
Yes,
We have the equipment within or outside the existing fence compound, but prior to that, we're saying everything is contained within the fence compound. So why would we even have to even say outside?
I think that I just did a project that had something like this, and there's something that the electric companies, and you guys may be able to answer this better, that they don't allow within the fence compound.
Probably the meter.
Okay, so that's outside. See, I said you guys would be able to answer better. So I just wanted to make sure that, okay, don't paint meters pink,
Neutral
or
color.
that. Don't tell, you know what, just don't touch the meters. And I think the applicant had another question.
Yes. Good evening, Frank Ferraro, attorney for T-Mobile. Good to see everybody again. Just real quick question. One of the conditions, this just had to do with the color of the equipment. I don't think it's an issue, but there was a comment, equipment will be, let's say, I think it was a neutral color.
It's number 3. specific
Number
condition
3.
Number 3.
So, just so the board knows, the equipment cabinets come in like a light gray, so I'm assuming that would
That
be
works.
sufficient. The generator is like an off-white, so it's like a dull white. The belly tank tends to be black on the bottom, and then the generator part is, is kind of like a dull white or an off-white, if you will. So I just wanted to make sure that would be okay. They're fire-rated enclosures, so we really don't have a lot of flexibility to
So
change the color.
white, like almost gray?
Yeah, almost a gray,
Well,
yeah.
it will be with the weather.
Exactly.
Frank, would you consider those neutral colors for purposes of
I do.
wireless communications?
And the black belly is typical.
So
I just wanted to
do
make
you have
sure.
to have your own generator, or,
Yeah.
so every single, like AT&T has their own generator, you guys will have your own, how many generators will be there?
Is it-
I think
Potentially
this is the
3.
second, because this is
Yeah.
the first co-location.
So
okay.
Verizon's not there yet, so they have their own generator.
So everybody has their own generator?
They use different equipment, and they just have different power needs, so, very rare that they ever share a generator. I've only been 20 years, maybe once. But usually it's a facility when they all go in at once, and then a lot of times it tends to be a municipal property perhaps,
Right.
where they're building the tower and 4 carriers are all going on at the same time. You know what everyone's equipment's gonna be. But otherwise, it's just hard to build a generator and have everybody connect to it and
Yeah.
make sure you meet everybody's needs. You might have a giant generator out there for, like this tower, for how many years before the next guy comes along, so.
I'll piggyback on that question. So, you're gonna have a generator. How close are you to any residences?
I
And
can check the
the issue
plan
maybe
here.
goes to noise.
It's,
I think I'm the closest house,
Yeah.
actually.
Is that right? Well, I hope you're the sleepers in this guy.
We had an outage 2 weeks ago, and I can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything. Okay, good.
I'm sorry, I'm looking for the distance.
Right,
It's in,
you're
it's
good.
in the original resolution.
You're good.
All right.
You're lucky.
Exactly.
You're a fortuitous event.
I'll take it.
And I did have one additional condition that was not in the draft that was circulated, so that would be a new number 6. And that is, prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance, the applicant shall submit to the building inspector written certification by a professional engineer that the operation of the facility is in compliance with the application and the town code.
I had a question. And it's to you too, Frank.
Okay.
Counsel and to you. Alright, so I did read through your legal brief, and I did read through the FCC report and order. And when I took away the difference between your legal brief and the report and order, there is reserved clearly under the report and order to states and municipalities the right to condition approval on aesthetic issues and safety issues. I did not see that anywhere in your brief. So Kelly, do we want to say that no action taken by us should be construed as approval or endorsement of the legal brief, which I found by omission to be not entirely correct?
I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to say that, because I think you have a lot of applications before you that, unfortunately, a lot of the materials are not always accurate. But you list everything that you've considered. So did you consider that as something when you reviewed this application? Yes. Is it something that your decision is 100% based on? And no. Are you endorsing it as your own? No, you're not. But you looked at it and you considered it. But I don't think
Fine.
you need to include that in there.
Okay.
And to be honest, this application is really being processed under the township ordinance and not the FCC regulations, which was really the crux of my legal memo. Because we are applying as a minor wireless facility under your ordinance, which is why we're actually dropping the height of the antennas from 8 feet to 6 feet. The FCC regs would allow us to put an 8-foot antenna in, but in order to meet the requirements for a minor facility, we are agreeing to put 6-footers in.
Other comments or questions? If not, can I have a motion then to approve the resolution of conditional approval, minor site plan for T-Mobile Northeast LLC as modified this evening?
I'll approve it.
Phil, second by?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Jeremy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Congratulations.
Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
Next item on the agenda is the 17M Flex Building, 12-2-43. We have an application for a site plan and special permit approval for a warehouse and office on 8.9 plus or minus acres along New York State Route 17M, Cannon Hill Drive in I-Zone AQ3, floodplain and ponding stream corridor and water supply and watershed overlays. And again, we're here to consider a draft resolution. Joe, welcome. Sean,
John Canning's here.
I know, but if you were just there to see him, I was talking to Neil before.
No,
I don't know if you want to do anything before I get to the traffic.
just real briefly, just to recap, as you remember, this was, I think, before you, at the July meeting, your second meeting in July. I had provided the board and the applicant with written comments. They were somewhat discussed at that time, and I think right now you were really waiting to hear from John regarding the traffic and the intersection and circulation and whatnot, so. as I
Which is
said
a great
before-
lead-in for you, John.
Thank you, Neil. Good evening, everybody. I reviewed the materials and they provided a traffic study. You're all familiar with Cannon Hill Drive. The traffic study indicated that a left turn lane is warranted. The applicant went to the department said yes, a left turn lane is warranted. So I presume they're proceeding with that. When you provide a left turn lane, you can just do a simple left turn lane, but the issue with Cannon Hill Drive, in addition to the left turn, is getting out of there in the evening, whenever you want to get out of there in the morning too, it is difficult. And if the applicant can work with the DOT to put in a left turn lane that allows you to turn into that lane and depart before you merge into the westbound traffic. It's a two-stage gap acceptance. The DOT is familiar with it, but if you could do that.
They are, but I'm not.
Well,
Can
so,
you explain a little bit better?
Yellow lines allowed.
yeah,
Both
the
traffic
easiest way it works is if you've ever seen the two-way left turn lanes,
Yeah,
right, they're about 12 to 14 feet wide, so you can make a left turn into that lane, and now you're in your own lane, there's nobody in it, and you can,
just
so you
allows
so you
this-
only have to deal with the traffic coming from your left, make the left turn into that, and now you can see traffic coming from your right and merge into that. That's the simplest, there are other forms of it, that's the simplest way, the DOT may not permit it, but I would at least explore that with them, because if you can do it, it would be a benefit to all the users of Cannon Hill Drive.
Does that provide benefit as far as, vehicles pulling in from 17 and into Cannon Hill Drive, making a left turn?
Well,
In, they
it
don't
would,
have to swing as wide, they're staying in their own lanes that way?
it would be more or less the same as what they're proposing, a simple left turn lane, more or less the same. Neil mentioned that you may have other applicants on Cannon Hill Drive, which would be generating more traffic. So, you know, if you don't have those applications now, there's nothing to do, but, you know, you wanna be thinking ahead, because if they come in and this applicant is still in front of the DOT, well, then there's another funding source to help get that built. Or, depending on how much traffic they're gonna generate, you might actually end up with a signal there. That's all, you know, in the future conjecture. A couple of, so what we would recommend is that the applicant talk to DOT and say the village has, the village's traffic consultant has recommended that we ask if we could do the town's traffic consultant, if we could do a two-stage left turn lane. The DOT says, we'll look at it, don't look at it, whatever they say goes. A second point that Neil made, and I just looked at the plans again, the turning templates that were provided show how these are the big tractor trailers with a 53-foot trailer can turn in, and the radius on the driveway in off of Cannon Hill Drive is way more generous than the radius on the driveway into Cannon Hill Road itself, the right in and the right out. So if you're going to approve this application, I would suggest that you recommend that the applicant in their discussion with the DOT for their permit, review this issue, because it's a DOT jurisdiction anyway, to have a look at what the turning radii would be, and if they need to be widened by a little bit. It's not really a big ask, I know it all adds up, but it would be a benefit for everybody if that was able to be done. And then the final point that Neil mentioned to me, which is interesting, they provided truck turning analyses that shows how the tractor trailers come in and they then just back into the spaces and they drive out. And Neil mentioned that, you know, if you drive and back in this way, you're on the left side of the vehicle and you can't really see the right side of the vehicle, but I guess you look in the mirror, and he said it might be easier if you just drive around the building. So, the roadway width may not be wide enough to do that right now, but it might not, that's the fire access road around the back of the building, but it might not be much to widen it just at the corners to make that. So I don't know whether the applicant wants to look at that or consider that, and if they decide that it's a good idea, that you could authorize the building inspector to allow a minor modification to modify the radius at the corners of the building to accommodate that. Does that concept at least make sense?
That could be considered a conditional approval, perhaps, if there was an issue down the road, no pun intended. As far as movement on the property, as opposed to doing it up front, I don't know.
Kinda like when we bank, parking.
Same idea, just
Yeah.
knowing that it's there, 'cause it's their property.
Yeah.
If they have to
So
widen
you
or
could
move a
certainly,
curb or something like
you could
that.
certainly do that, you bank
as opposed
parking,
to
you
do
could
it up
bank,
front.
bank the radius, and if they wanted to come back and do it, you know, you'd already have considered it, it's probably gonna add, you know, 15 square feet, 20 square feet of impervious at the corners to make it happen, which is really nothing.
So you're turning off the roadway.
So, I mean, it's not a bad location, the challenges are the volume of traffic on 17M.
John, if you could clarify for me, when you say that the applicant will work with the DOT, I assume that contemplates meeting with them, discussing with them, what do we do about this intersection? Let us assume that agreement can be reached,
Mhm.
what the appropriate thing is to do. Who ends up paying for those improvements?
Typically, the applicant does, unless the applicant can find other sources of funding. So basically what happens is the applicant comes out of this meeting and this board has told him as a condition of site plan approval that he has to comply with DOT requirements. So he submits an application to the DOT and the DOT says, yes, you have to do a left turn lane, submit us a design. And then they will comment on the design about, you know, how wide the lane is, how far it is, what the radii are, you know, what the drainage is. Okay, you comply with all of that. Then they give you a permit to build it and you've required that they comply with the DOT's requirements. Now they have to get funding to build it. So I'm sure they're hoping that the shoulders are full depth reconstruction. And so most of what they're gonna do is just, because I've had the same issue down in Westchester, most of what they're gonna do is just restriping.
Now, what's the difference between this and fair share contributions?
Well, in a fair share contribution, you make it, you as a board, and by the way, you've already done seeker, so
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure how that works in here, but in a fair share contribution, you as a board, when you're reviewing the project, you make a determination that a project is generating not enough traffic to justify the whole improvement, but it's still adding on. And so you say, well, we will acknowledge that you're not materially changing things in a significant way, which is what seeker's about, but you're still changing things. And we want to move things to get to be where they want to be better. And so the goal is to have a left turn lane here. So we're asking you to make a contribution in, and you have to provide a rational nexus somehow. You can't, if he has one trip, he doesn't have to pay 50% of the cost. So that's kind of the tricky part.
Now,
But that's-
I'm only thinking because we already have, occupancies along Canyon Hill Drive.
Correct.
That are using the road.
Correct.
And a fair number of vehicles in and out as well.
Yes.
Before it even considers building his flex building.
Correct.
You know, not to mention anything else that might come in or modify subsequently. So that's, I was just wondering how that works. I mean,
So
you
so
can't go back to the existing,
You can't go back.
right,
So the issue then is who pays the rest of it? And with the fair
Exactly.
share contribution, the understanding is that the particular applicant doesn't have to build the improvement. He has to pony up his share of the money to help build it. And then if another few people come along, hopefully the improvement will be built.
But if they don't come along, then money
Never
stays
gets
in
built.
escrow somewhere?
Yes, yeah, and you can, when you set it up, you can set it up that it gets returned to the applicant after 3, 4, 5, 6 years, whatever you deem appropriate, that, yeah, nothing's gonna happen here.
And if I understand correctly from your report, you described that if a different building went in here, would sort of maximize the light industry kind of ability
Yeah.
to build there, that it would be a much more significant impact than what we're modeling for this thing.
Well, so the applicant's consultant modeled the building conservatively. They looked at a general light industrial building generating, I think, 38 trips. But the existing Cannon Hill Drive Flex building generates 6 or 7 trips. So the study was conservative and said, this is what's gonna happen. It'll increase delays getting out onto Cannon Hill Road by 60 seconds. That's pretty significant, right? Now, the model goes a little haywire when capacity is exceeded. It has a hard time figuring out, oh, I don't have capacity, how long is it gonna take to get out? But it still indicates it's gonna be a lot. If you only have 7 trips, it's probably gonna increase the delay by 10 seconds, which is not significant.
So if we could somehow create assurances that the intensity of the traffic is consistent with what they're presenting to us, like, we can reasonably well assume that the impact on the road is not gonna be overly significant.
Correct.
Even though the road's terrible to begin with, they're not gonna make it particularly worse.
Correct, well, I'm not sure, I mean, I don't wanna speak for the applicant, but when they were here before you, they did mention that they had another similar building, and so if they can say, well, our intent is to run it like we run that building, that's what you should expect. And then, you know, you can word that into your resolution with the help of Kelly and
I was gonna say, I hope he's drafting that condition.
Well, if you wanna hear from the applicant, we're here. Well, one of the things, and I believe in the emails back and forth, we did submit, it's not just a commitment that the building would be similar to the prior one. the type of construction, and Joe might jump in and speak to this better, but the type of construction and occupancy is that this building wouldn't be sprinklered, so the big kind of industrial users are not likely going to take this building, and it's gonna be similar to the other one where you're gonna have 10,000 square feet here, 6,000 here, 8,000 here, and generate the, you know, the insignificant traffic. So we would be willing to, you know, commit to that in the resolution, so you would have some confidence, because as I told you with the school bus, I have utmost respect for Mr. Canning, and he's, you know, right on all his analysis, but the words working with the DOT, it's, you know, I mean, the state should be doing these improvements based upon the fact that it's a state road, and they've been taking taxes and revenue from all these businesses on Cannon Road, and you plan appropriately. You know, unfortunately, the way this land use process runs, it's this, if you're the straw that breaks the camel's back, you build the whole camel. You know, I'm old enough to remember everybody celebrating when impact fees were rejected by the courts, but it had that effect that, you know, fair share would be the way to go on here, all the businesses there, and we, you know, would be willing to, you know, come to a fair share, you know, contribution with the board as part of the, you know, part of the resolution to fund it when the DOT is ready, but to negotiate and convince the DOT that when they have their hooks into someone that, you know, and they may not know if they're gonna get a hook at anybody else, and they can get all the improvements they seem to be wanted funded at, you know, the property owner's expense, and this type of building would not support that type of fence, that, the type of overall improvements that would be necessary to make, and that's why fair share contribution seems to be the way we would like to go.
Thanks, John. So,
I like your analogy though about the camel.
But,
have you tried building a camel?
I understood what you were saying.
So how would we come up with a fair share contribution figure? How would you even do that?
I don't think you have to worry about that.
It's not hard.
That's usually a town board issue, and John can speak to how they do that, but if you don't, it depends, do you wanna know for just knowing, or?
If we don't have to do it, I'm not gonna waste our time.
So I think we're gonna have a couple things to discuss, but I prepared for you a draft resolution, and there's a couple revisions. There were a couple typos, so I'm gonna hopefully head those off with Lee. There was a number 9 that had nothing next to it, deleted it, don't worry.
Number 7, right behind it.
There wasn't a, what?
There was a, yeah, a little typo in said.
And number 7, the last revision on that, part 3 was actually April 25th.
Not February 7th?
There was one after that, if you look at the,
April 25th?
April 25th.
I'm gonna highlight that, 'cause I don't know that.
You do have it here, if you want to see it.
No, I trust you. I wanna make sure my files are complete for when I'm not here and when I send them to Liam, so he has it complete as well. But going back to page 1, I actually have one on page 1. This was AKA, it should be AKA 17M Flex, and then I need to carry that AKA throughout the document. So that's what it was actually also known as. So then, scrolling down. I'm gonna have to follow up with Grace on the GML. It was referred a long time ago before the electronic submission, and I don't have a hard copy of the GML report. If one came in, it wasn't anything that had mandatory comments. At that point, they weren't really doing them. That I had for this municipality that showed mandatory comments, I will say. Because you had very few that had mandatory comments. But if they didn't get you one, it's been well over 30 days, like by a couple years. So you're all set there, timing wise. So I'll fill that in, but I'm gonna follow up with Grace because I don't have it electronically.
I apologize.
get you the April 25th version. Yeah, I'm not gonna try and throw that, I'm just not doing that. Let's see. I separated the findings this way just this time because I know they can be a little bit repetitive, and I wanted you to see that they were for each one on this one. Resolution, I'll fix the AKA. Then, since we were talking about the banked parking stalls, did you want to put in a specific condition related to bank radius? What did you want that to say?
Sure, the bank radius of the corners.
Okay, so if you do want that, I'm gonna have to get language from John at another time to make that sound pretty. Right now, their impervious surface coverage, which was gonna be my concern, they're allowed 70%, they have 50.6. So it seems like
It will not impact.
it won't impact it, but I would have to include something in that condition that if for some reason it exceeds that, then it has to go to the ZBA and it's no longer approved.
I don't know, I'm not looking at the plans right now, I assume that there's nothing inconsistent with the plans and this request for banked turning.
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think the applicant's asking for it, I think John's recommending it.
No, I understand, but if we're gonna require it, I just wanna make sure we're not putting.
Oh, I understand.
So,
But I don't think we're
Jeremy,
requiring it.
yeah, you're not requiring,
We're
but
just
you're
saying
making it
in
an
the
option.
future if the applicant wants to
It's
do
an
it.
option for the applicant, so that if he wants to do it, he could go to the building inspector, and the building inspector will say, okay, it's all in compliance, and he won't come
Not
back
to
to
come
you
back to
guys.
this board.
We're not requiring banks.
No.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
The only thing, if I could add, Lee, in consultation with the town engineer.
Perfect.
I'm just gonna make notes on what John Canning's conditions should include for when he sends it to me. Just even that. Okay, then there was an additional specific condition, it'll be little e, that they also have to post stormwater bonds in accordance with the town code. Talking about, which is specific condition 10, we're talking about the developers agreement. So John, what the condition says now is prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall enter into a developer's agreement with and to the reasonable satisfaction of the town of Goshen to support the town in commencing the process addressing the traffic issues with the New York State Department of Transportation along New York State Route 17M and specifically at the intersection of Cannon Hill Drive. But it doesn't sound like that's what's happening here anymore. It sounds like they have to do this. So should that change to something else?
No, I don't think so,
Okay.
because they only have to do it if you require them to go to DOT. I'm late to the party here, because this is my first meeting on this application. So it sounds to me like you're doing a site plan now, and you're, rather than requiring them to submit an application to the DOT to provide a left turn lane, you're requiring them to enter into a developer's agreement to make a contribution that would support the construction of a left turn lane.
Okay.
So,
So then I'll leave that.
I'm not a lawyer, but it sounds like they're getting off the hook with the Department of Transportation, if that's the way the resolution reads.
Well, that was the condition that I had in there, so I don't know what the board wants to do based on what John's prior comments were. Let me pull up the negative declaration.
Your neg deck that you adopted had, the applicant is directed to apply to the New York State DOT for the same, and I think the same, had to do with the intersection. Construction of a left turn lane on New York State 17M.
So that sounds like a conflict, right? Between what
Well, if it stays, if the resolution stays, it's conflict.
Yeah.
It says, the planning board has been made aware that a left turn lane is currently warranted at the intersection of Cannon Hill Drive and 17M, and that the intersection has experienced a higher than average accident rate. Based on the fact that the increase in traffic will be modest, it's concluded that any potential impacts associated with additional traffic by this project would be offset by construction of a left turn lane on 17M, and so the applicant is directed to apply to New York State DOT for the same.
Not for a permit. What we did was we went to the DOT to verify that the left turn lane was warranted. That's what this board wanted to know, is if it was warranted, because at the time, it was not, we didn't know whether or not the DOT was gonna allow the left turn lane, so we were instructed to go to the DOT. That's what we did, not for a permit.
No, the neg deck is clear, it says left turn lane is currently warranted at the intersection.
Right.
So the planning board had made that determination.
Well, so it may be warranted, but the question is, did the language direct the applicant to, this applicant to this board to submit a permit application to the DOT to do the work? Kelly, can you read that again?
Based on the fact that the increase in traffic will be modest, it is concluded that any potential impacts associated with the additional traffic this project will generate would be offset by the construction of a left turn lane on New York State 17M, and the applicant is directed to apply to New York State DOT for the same. So directed to apply for the construction of a left turn lane on 17M.
That's what it sounds like.
That would infer a permit, as opposed to just justification.
Yeah.
But not for a permit. There was no place.
Well, what are you applying for then?
You're applying for the construction of a left turn lane.
Which is a permit.
They issue a permit in response, if they approve in response to that.
Well, if you're applying, well, yeah, if you wanna construct a left turn lane on 17M, you'd have to get a permit.
I mean, we're gonna have to, ask the board to amend that, or if we're required to apply, the DOT becomes involved, and then the whole fair share thing is gonna go out the window.
What are you suggesting?
Hold on, I just want the board to understand something, that the fair share doesn't necessarily go out the window. There is no fair share because the applicant's directed to go to the
Yeah,
DOT and do the work.
Well, the project will go out the window.
Well,
That's a little bit different
Yes.
than what was said before. So I just want the board to understand that you're not letting go of improvements at that intersection. You're making this applicant's concern, rather than just taking some number to be identified later.
How would the fair share compare to the applicant designing the improvements but not constructing them?
That number is unknown right now because it would go to the town board. John, do you have any idea, have you looked at what the potential fair share could be for what the applicants discussed?
I haven't looked at
Yeah,
it.
I didn't think so.
You know, we were always under the assumption that that was something we were gonna do with the town's traffic consultant, our traffic consultant, and the boards, the town board, and, because we are going to DOT with the concept plan, we're gonna use that as our base for, you know, an estimate.
And why does that need to change? Does that need to change?
Well, this says applicant is directed to apply to New York State DOT for the same as that intersection improvement. And,
So applying is implying a permit,
yeah, what would you
as
else be
opposed
applying
to
for?
just justification for the need or not.
Can
I
I
mean,
ask for this, I don't wanna belabor this, but can we have our traffic engineer run this based upon the actual use of the building, the fact that it's not sprinklered, to come up with the numbers, to present them to Mr. Canning, and present the traffic generated that, based upon the overall traffic, to come to a fair share contribution that you could revisit and look at it and potentially modify. We'd have to modify it.
You'd have to-
Yeah.
You'd have to modify it.
That's
but-
why I'm saying we'll present.
So you want to reopen seeker?
Oh, just so you know.
This has been since May of 2024, John.
Yeah,
And
I
back in May of
understand, but I-
2024, the project would add 40 trips an hour and 300 a day, which I just pulled up. Obviously, I didn't make these things up myself.
Yes, so that's based on the industry standard for general light industrial, and the applicant
Yeah, you got
this
it.
evening has made a representation that that's not what it's going to be. It's going, no, that's their representation, and it seems legitimate. It's going to be similar to the sister building, and so instead of generating 40 trips, it's gonna generate 7 trips, which is what the sister building generates.
What would happen if that building was flipped to another developer?
They
Gotta come
could-
back here to proceed
No.
here?
No,
So they could theoretically throw a much higher intensity on the roadways.
Well, the issue is, it's gonna be constructed to a standard, and that's what we have to provide you, that it will not be sprinkled, so it will not be
Right.
conducive
No,
to a
but,
use
yeah, but
of
not,
one
yeah,
of the
but if
bigger.
somebody were to wanna take that building,
office facility.
they could theoretically sprinkle it, put in a storage holding tank for water, whatever they have to do, and use it for a totally different purpose. I
Well,
mean,
we could put
because the whole
something,
idea is
yeah.
it's a flex building, which means, I'm presuming the walls between the 12 sections are not so permanent that it couldn't be opened up to be bigger space.
Well, we could come up with wording on that, that if it did go to sprinkler or fire rated, that it would have to come back for the board then to examine the traffic and examine, re-examine seeker based upon those revisions.
And that's one of Kelly's conditions as well.
Yeah.
as far as-
That's in the resolution.
No, I'm just thinking, because, right now, they're representing
Right.
a 6 to 7 vehicles based on the sister facility behind it. But if they didn't hold on to this, or took on a different partner, a different, occupant or tenant, it could have a totally different use.
They have to come back here.
Well, that's what I was just asking, if they would or wouldn't.
Well, if you have one tenant that uses 42,000 square feet of warehouse, and they use that and they have 2 trucks a day, John, I'm making up these numbers, so humor me, okay? So they use 2 trucks a day, but then you get a different tenant, because that tenant moves out, and they still use the same 42,000 square feet of warehouse, but they use 30 trucks a day, that's not coming back before you, because the use is warehouse, and it's same use, it doesn't come back.
But it wouldn't have to be reevaluated based on the industry standard of what that warehouse square
No,
footage
the
would be?
use is the same, and they don't even need a permit.
The
Then what's the
mechanism
purpose?
the
It's either-
mechanism doesn't exist, Mr. Chairman.
Was that?
The mechanism really doesn't exist. I mean, the only way anybody would know about it is if a building permit was applied for. If a building permit was applied for, nobody would know about it.
Nobody would know. It's like going from retail to retail. You
But
just
we
don't
would
know.
have to apply for a building permit to do the sprinkler, to make
Right.
it
No,
a
not
fully
necessarily.
industrial,
No.
to get a sprinkler, to put in a sprinkler?
It's like
it's
going
not
from
under the building.
Yes,
going
you would,
from
but if
an
you-
IHOP to a steakhouse, it's a restaurant to a restaurant, it's a retail to a retail. If the use remains the same, they're not coming back before you.
But doesn't the use just change, going from being a flex facility to whatever else it might be?
No.
That's not a
The flex
different,
facility is not a defined
it's not
use in the
recognized?
code.
No,
The
that's why I
flex
broke
is-
it down into 42,000 square feet of
and
warehouse
8,000
and
office.
8,000 square feet of office divided into 12 rentable spaces.
So they've made they've made some different representations, but representations to us about what the traffic intensity is gonna be like. Is there a way to codify that within the conditions? And I realize Frank's not gonna be out there with like a clicker, but is there a way to codify those representations of the conditions such that we protect ourselves, that any future tenant or owner won't be able to blow the thing up?
Well, you could put it in here as a condition, and if they go way over and above, it's gonna be an enforcement action. That's what it's gonna be.
And is that a reasonable or unreasonable?
I would hear from your building inspector on
Yeah.
She doesn't have.
Frank's like, I'm retiring.
Jeremy said, I'm not going out there with a clicker, but if the town was to, say, get a third-party enforcement agency to do this clicking, maybe that's the way to go.
It does seem like the project that they presented feels okay under the context of what we're all talking about, if it continues the way that they represented it. So if we could box that in, I mean, I feel like that could solve, tell me why that can't solve the problem.
I don't know, Neil's raising his hand.
The original building, and the reason it's called flex is it's designed so they could theoretically break it up in 5,000 foot increments. The reason it didn't need a firewall in the back, or didn't need a sprinkler in the back, is probably gonna be here too, is they put a firewall in there to cut down this, it's essentially treated as 2 separate buildings under the building code. So you wouldn't get the threshold for a sprinkler usually. But what happened inside there, took a long time for them to originally get it rented out, really. And so they have, I think, 1 or 2 units there that are 5,000 square feet. I think they have one that's probably close to 20,000 square feet. So it's gonna be unknown as to who's gonna take out so much. We end up getting a change at one point to have a auto repair glass place in there. So there are various ways it can be done. I don't think back then he did not commit to having just certain uses. I don't know if he's willing to do that now, but we really don't know what's gonna happen, and we
Right.
didn't know what's gonna happen there.
But if we follow this path, that sounds like a them problem, not an us problem. But we're talking about.
Yeah, we would try to work out and present use of more clarity as it relates to what Neil said, something that's documented, that if we had to go with the sprinkler to remove if we had to remove the firewall and make it 140,000 square foot building, we would have to go to the building inspector for that, and that we would write in the resolution as a condition, that would be considered a change of use. That would then require that applicant at that time to come back before the board to redo seeker, to review the difference of the impacts from the, or understand where, we're modifying it a bit. And, I came a little late to this game when the neg deck was.
So it sounds like the clicker issue is actually off the board. You guys aren't interested in.
Well, no, we could work something out with the clicker, but, I sit on this side as well, and as an enforcement action to say we're gonna be out there with the clicker is much more difficult than, say, the enforcement action is putting in a sprinkler and taking out a wall. That's something that is gonna go before your building inspector, and you're not gonna have to send your building inspector out on the corner or someone with a clicker, and, that day it may be more, the next day it may be less, so, I don't wanna BS you guys and say that I disagree that that's not a unique enforcement, but I do think the wall, and I do think the sprinkler system, that's something that's easier to kick before the board. Okay, I got an application, they're changing this building, they're fundamentally changing it, that triggers the review, and that's something I think that's easier to.
Hey, Sean,
I seen shown out in the rain once.
if they put a sprinkler system, would you have to come before the board?
No.
Before the building inspector.
However, if they needed a storage tank or something else on the site, then at that point, they'd probably come back for a site.
Firewall, you gotta come back?
Nope.
Nope.
Not even for a firewall?
Goes Frank.
If they put a water tank in, if they had it indoors, they wouldn't have to come here either.
That's correct.
Just fill it with a tanker.
I'm thinking that they would use like parking spaces and put the tank exterior, and then there's elimination or change in the parking and possibly circulation.
Or they could put it underneath the ground, but, I see it. But, no, what I was gonna say is that really, the sprinkler system and the wall have no direct relationship to traffic counts. It's how it's used up, like, it's kinda like, when we talk about warehouses, and this is gonna be the last mile, where we send a lot of trucks out or whatever, as opposed to the bigger thing. So, when we're talking about sprinklers and firewalls, it really has no direct connection to traffic counts.
No, but it has a direct connection to what we're doing
With the occupancy.
currently with our existing building.
No, in all honesty, I don't know, and I'm not sure, up until the time I retired, I had no problem at all with the back building, and there was very little traffic impacts at all. I had, it's not been a big issue back there. I don't think it's been since the present.
No.
So that, the way it's used back there has not been an issue at all. I just don't know how we do it up front here and guarantee it.
It sounds to me like John wants to take a minute, not tonight, obviously, and talk to his client to see what they can do, what they're willing to do, and see if they want to request that the board adopt an amended negative declaration, but get some additional information and work with your traffic engineer. And then maybe the draft resolution would be changed at that point. The applicant has waived the 62-day timeframe within which for you to make a decision, so you have a draft to work off of. You have your negative declaration. If there's additional information that, they provide to consider, you can certainly do that. But I think there's, unless I'm misunderstanding the situation.
I need to give you the justification to amend it.
So if we go down the route where you wanna have the applicant pay their fair share, okay? That means they don't have to go to the DOT to get a permit or anything to do with the construction or the turning thing. So now, we're relying on the DOT someday in the future to say, hey, we're gonna need a turning lane here?
Not really.
What not?
What you're relying on is, because that's hoping for a miracle.
That's where I'm going, that's the path we're going now, so that money's gonna be there.
What you're
for-
relying on is that there will be other applications that come before this board, and each one that comes before them is gonna add 10 cars to this intersection, whether they're on Cannon Hill Drive or on 17M. And you're gonna say, well, we have a fund here for cars that go through this intersection, 10 cars is 2%. So the cost of the improvements are $500,000, 2% of $500,000 is, I don't know, 10,000, right?
Okay, but by then, right now, there's gonna be already an issue with the turning, right? So by then, it'll be really bad.
Yes.
And the
Potentially.
DOT never steps in and says, wait, this is terrible, we should do it
Well,
now.
well, they step in when you have the most dangerous intersection in the state, right? They do, they do studies on dangerous intersections.
This is good. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, well, they do census of their intersections, and they find out which the worst ones are, and they have limited resources, so they fix the worst ones first. So it'll be worse probably if the traffic increases, but unless it rises to the worst of the worst, it won't get fixed by DOT.
Don't use that as a plan to go out and hit each other at that
I mean,
intersection.
the converse of that is on 17M and 17A, as we saw with the student bus application, you're effectively saying that there's gonna be no more development on Industrial Drive and on Cannon Hill Drive, because there's a left, whether this project goes through, whatever the next project that comes, there's gonna be a left turn lane required on those roads. And if the state's not gonna do it, and the town's not gonna get behind the state to do it, then you're not gonna have development on, and the DOT's not gonna come up with some kind of scenario, there's traffic improvement there are ways to collect, to get fair shares, to put it toward a pot, but absent that, if the criteria is nothing without a left turn lane, you're essentially saying those roads are closed for future development, because one car is gonna require, a left turn lane.
So Sean, maybe me know, maybe not, because it's the Village of Goshen, but that wine place, right, they have a turn lane.
Okay.
I was just wondering,
I think they put it in.
Yeah, I think they did too.
Yeah, when Medline put in, when we represented Medline, they put in turning lanes and lights all over the place because they're 1.3 million square foot, and, that's what you have to, I amend my thing, unless you get an Amazon or a Medline or Cadem that is so large, or Legoland, that's large enough, they'll build. But if you want space for local people to have 8,000 or 10,000 square feet, that's not,
So I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think what the applicant is asking you to do is to consider tabling your resolution this evening, so they can go back and come back and possibly revisit seeker. I do have a question for John in a second with regard to that, but I just wanted to mention, the applicant previously had, you remember you closed public hearing, a certain number of days, 62 days, you need to take action. The applicant had previously allowed you some additional time to this evening. So if they want that, I think you're gonna have to discuss how much more they think that they're gonna be able to come back with this additional information. And to that point, John, I did not review the traffic study, but did the applicant actually do a traffic count for the existing warehouse, or are they just
Yeah.
saying, they did? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I said everything before that part.
She never heard that.
I mean,
It's in here, and
sounded.
I didn't know if the 6 was, we're 6 trucks a day, or we've actually did a count and we're definitely 6 trucks a day.
no, they counted it.
Okay.
Also, it's boring today. Leo.
I kind of have a question for both of our attorneys. Kelly, because you're here now, and then because you're gonna hand it off. Is there a way we can get from where we are right now to the point of getting to a fair share situation? And what's that method?
I think we can. I think right now we just need to see what the applicant comes back with in terms of what their actual proposed traffic is and what your traffic consultant comes back and says about that. So I think we can tweak the language that's in the negative declaration to address that, and I don't wanna use the phrase lock them in that way, but also lock them in that way. And then craft the conditions appropriately. And similar to student bus, there was a developer's agreement, that was and they posted the bond right away. The
Already
bond,
ended up
I'm
getting
sorry,
too.
they posted the monies
Yeah.
right away. So I think that you could do that and have the fair share agreement.
Yes.
Lee, can we poll the board to see if people are open to that?
We could.
But you may wanna wait until you have that information, I don't know, it's up to you.
Find out what it is first.
Find out what it is before,
And the town board's gonna make that call too, I mean, as we indicated earlier, the town board's gonna set that amount. And they have to work with our traffic consultant, come with that number, present to the town board and make sure they're in agreement. And that would be incorporated and baked into your resolution, if you go that route. But it goes back to Sean's point, where you still, if you're gonna reopen secret, you have a shot clock that needs to be extended at this point.
We'll extend it 60 days and then revisit it at that point.
Can we just do it to a meeting date?
What's that?
Can we just do it to a meeting date, so 60 days?
Whatever the second October meeting is,
October 16th.
October 16th.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Would the board consider permitting me to communicate directly with the applicant's traffic consultant on technical traffic issues, so that we don't waste time going, I don't mean it in a bad way, but send the memos to you, send the memos to me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Do I need a motion for the 60 days, so the October 16th date?
It would be good to have one, just so that it's clear for the record.
Okay. Could I have said motion to extend?
To extend,
The time frame within which you have to make a decision upon mutual agreement with the applicant.
okay, I'll make, yeah.
Phil, second by?
I'll second.
Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Thank you very much.
October 16th.
Good luck, Kelly.
Thanks.
Lean up, jump right in.
Good night, John. Take care.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, guys, good night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
John.
Lino, good luck, we'll see you soon.
Thanks, John, take care.
Good luck to you too, Kelly.
Tough new boss.
You're gonna need it.
25 years.
Oh, thanks. I don't know,
25 years.
he must not wanna grab dinner.
Next item on the agenda is Gim's Garden LLC, 24-1-7. We have an application for a site plan approval for an agricultural warehouse and onion packaging facility on 10.66 plus or minus acres along Pulaski Highway, County Route 6 and Wisniewski Road in the AI zone with an AQ3 overlay. We're here this evening to look at some revised plans. Again, welcome, Joe.
Since our last meeting, we did get a comment letter from Sean, and we did
Don't
make
say it like that, it's like, you got a comment letter from Sean, of course, it's not a bad thing.
I say it too, I'm like, oh god, another comment letter from Sean.
The wind's not bad me from that last one.
Those engineering.
And what we did was, we provided additional information, we prepared the long environmental assessment form, we did complete our archaeological study, and I believe we have just recently gotten a sign off from SHPO on that as well, and we performed our endangered species study. As part of that study, because I think there was a question, whether or not there were wetlands on site, and that study includes, the identification that there were no wetlands on site, because the mapper did indicate that there were on or adjacent. We did, also provide a project narrative, and then we basically just expanded on the site plan set to address a number of Sean's comments. And we did receive a new comment letter. We received a new comment letter.
There you go.
from Sean. And there's things, there's nothing on there that seemed, that was gonna really, be detrimental to the site plan the way we have it, and nothing that we can't, address. So we're hoping, that we will be able to schedule a public hearing this evening if possible. So,
Just one question for you, this is
Yes.
a very minor one. On the general notes, number 6, it says it's a corporate building. Is that just generic or is it carryover or something? Which one, page 1? No, page 1, general note.
Yeah. no number, I'm sorry.
Number 6, says corporate building is to be served.
No, I don't know what that is.
It's just a warehouse,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's not a corporate building, okay. Sean, did you have anything that you wanted to share with us that was of significance, that we all should know about?
I don't know, Mr. Chairman, you're asking me just to be brief, or are you asking me not to speak at all?
Not so many words, yes.
All right, so I will be very brief. So just as a reminder, if you do go to a public hearing, they submitted an agricultural data statement, and Grace will be circulating that to those property identified in that. I think one of the largest issues is Pulaski Highway, and they have an access out there. They said they're not gonna use that access. I suggested they eliminate that access and possibly consider readdressing the property if it has a Pulaski Highway address.
I mean, the access on Pulaski, if I read it right, was like emergency vehicles could use that to get in.
That would be our hope.
But if that's the case, then it probably would have some sort of gate and knockbox or something? So
I
it
would-
can't just be used for general?
I would think so, or you could even, I think in this location, you can even just do grass pavers or something like that, that emergency vehicle can go off, but the general public wouldn't recognize it as a driveway. My concern is that if the addressing for this property is on a Pulaski Highway address, people may come to that address,
Right.
get to that point, and not know what to do. So there may be some readdressing.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, as far as blocking it off in some way, but not eliminating it,
Yeah.
since it's already there as a resource.
The well test, the plan they submitted, I sent to the town hydrogeologist, I have not heard back from him. I don't know if the applicant's aware of this, originally this came in for a building permit application, so we have architectural plans. Your plans don't necessarily coincide with those plans, so you may wanna take a second look at those. If you don't have them, we can get them for you. And then lastly, I think the applicant's indicated there's gonna be 0.3 acres of disturbance. The building obviously is larger than that, but I think what they're saying is that it's already an existing pad, they're building on top of an existing pad. I had just asked for some confirming calculations to make sure that it's not over an acre, as they've indicated.
Which will provide.
And you had mentioned as far as the water, study, for the water test on the well, going to the hydrogeologist. They're looking at, what, was it 225 gallons?
Yes.
It used to be like under a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah, I
Do you have
agree.
no flexibility on that?
They have to do a water test. It can be a very reduced water test. I don't know what was in the study, because I just sent that right to the hydrogeologist. But I think this applicant wanted to kind of get that, you know, off their plate as quickly as
Right,
possible, and
right.
that's why they've engaged a hydrogeologist to take care of that and finalize that.
And the well's existing, so we don't have to
Right.
go through the drilling part.
Yeah. And I think, Mr. Chairman, because it's a low demand, I think my recommendation to the board, unless the town hydrogeologist disagrees, is that it would be a condition of your approval. You know, unless the board wants to see that information. I'm not aware of any problems out in that area
Right,
with water supply.
and it's not gonna become a public water system. It's not going to the
No.
county, because of the number of individuals that'll be working here. Oh, yeah, I did have another sticky. Joe,
Yes.
on the narrative, item B, water, just need to revise.
Yes.
You're saying that because there's only 15 employees, it's anticipated the facility will be classified as a non-transient, non-commuting.
So there will
It's
not.
actually going to be classified as a non-public water system. That doesn't meet the criteria of any public water supply with 15 people.
Yep. Got it.
I have a question.
Diana,
They're building a new building, and they're expecting X amount of people to be in that building. But they're currently operating out of the building in front of it. I've seen forklifts in there, I've seen onions in there, and I've seen workers in there. So is that workers, the 6 that are going into the building, or is it 6 in the building plus whatever's in the other building?
I'm told that it's the total number of those are the total for the entire operation. And that existing building will be utilized for storage after this building is completed.
I don't believe that at all. As a farmer, I can guarantee you that they're not gonna work with just 6 employees.
Can you check on that?
Yes.
I can guarantee you that.
Or would there be 15, once they use that for storage, would the 15 people then be working in the new structure?
Well, if they have onions in there, they're gonna grade them, you've got at least 6 people working on the grading alone. Plus the guy that's gonna be running the forklift and the other guy that's gonna be packing and the 18-wheelers that are gonna come in to take it out and bring it in. So there's definitely gonna be more people. And maybe not 18, but maybe a straight job.
So you're saying 15 is not enough?
Is it 15 or is it 6?
It's 15
No, it's
people is what's
15
in the study.
altogether.
Total of 15 is what's being proposed.
And,
In the new building or?
The total operation, I'm
Total
told, is gonna be
operation.
the 15 people.
maybe.
I'll verify.
Yeah,
those.
just
Does that
verify
storage
that.
building that's existing have water facilities presently? Restrooms, pub, anything?
I do not believe so, but I will check that. I don't think it does though.
Other comments from the board?
Yeah, I have a question, Julie.
That's okay.
Agricultural building, and I don't know wholesale agriculture, but I do know that depending on what kind of products or produce I take out of my own garden, I have different water use. If I have tomatoes, I tend to wash them. If I have onions, I tend to not wash them. So I question water use depending on what they're bringing in, what kind of produce they're gonna process in there.
Yeah.
And consequently, I think 250 gallons may be too low unless it's just going totally onions, in which case that might be correct. So I don't know what that is. And I think that the application says that this is only about the new building and not about anything else on the property, except we do have other things on the property. Because I'm Canada, I have 2 dwellings, 2 other buildings, 1 storage building, 4 bungalows. Somehow we either have to eliminate all those other uses if we're not gonna consider them as part of this application, but otherwise I think the whole project should be the whole,
We need to know everything that's going on.
that's what I wanna know. Okay.
But what you're studying for purposes like of seeker is the new building, but you do need to know everything that's on the property just so it can be identified, but some of that may be, and you'd have to turn to your building inspector, maybe legally pre-existing non-conforming.
I have no problem with that, but when we go to talk about water usage off the property, and we are talking off the property, then I think the water usage may be different because we have to consider the water usage that's currently being done on the property.
All the existing
Everything
buildings
is
that are vacant,
Yeah, everything is vacant.
but when they weren't vacant, where were they getting their water?
What do you mean everything's vacant? What's vacant?
Every one of these
All the
buildings is
buildings
listed,
except
all the
for-
No,
dwellings.
they're not. I know that the building in front of the one that they're proposing, they're working on.
Yeah, you know,
I've seen it.
besides,
He
yes,
said that.
yes.
All
It's
right,
the only
so
one.
In their
you can say it's
correspondence.
vacant.
No dwellings, no
I just want the whole
bungalows.
board to
Well, yeah,
understand.
since Sun whatever moved out, nobody's probably been in there.
So what the applicant is proposing, besides the proposed building for onions, they propose to continue to reuse the building that Diana's talking about for storage, but all the other buildings, please correct me if I'm wrong, are vacant and will remain vacant.
Correct.
Okay.
It's marked on the
I had the same question when it initially came in, and that, I think, led to the vacant, identification of the plans.
So long as they remain vacant, then there wouldn't be additional water usage,
And that would be a condition of the approval ultimately, that they remain
if they
vacant,
remain vacant.
otherwise, the back here is.
Otherwise, yeah, then we're back to that same issue that Neil just raised.
Yep,
Being that they're farmers and those are vacant bungalows and they were used for migrant housing, if they're going to hire migrants under the state of New York, they get compensated for using those buildings
Okay.
for housing. So they may not be planning right now, but somewhere down the road where they increase their whatever business, they may want those migrants that are working on the property to have housing, because the state will pay them to have that housing.
Then they would have to come back before you, and there's certain provisions in your code relative to migrant worker housing, for farm, I'm sorry, I should say farm worker housing.
We just did this kind of circle with Gerda, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But he was proposing it, well, actually, he was not gonna do it, and then he decided to add it to the application.
Yeah.
And that's why we're so
Like,
familiar
what
with
is
that.
that,
provision.
race culture?
But it's the same thing, they're not proposing to use it even though the stuff exists and now,
But,
I'm
but
very
Joe
concerned.
could come back and talk to him, and he may
Mhm.
say, you know what, let's put it in the application now. We don't know. That may be something you
Well, we
wanna
did
ask.
ask him about that. I mean, a lot of the buildings are in disrepair, so.
Okay.
I'd love to see if they're in disrepair, I'd love to just as soon as see them knocked down or disconnected by the water or disconnected by the electric, some other way to just not have people suddenly show up in there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Other comments from the board? Concerns, questions?
How,
So-
what, I'm sorry, I was gonna ask, how good is a town road there? Is that good enough for
No, and they've indicated that they will be dedicating, land for the right of way.
then let's go to the next question, why don't we just use the access onto
Pulaski
highway?
Pulaski substandard, they don't have the site.
The site distance.
Oh, okay.
It's very bad, actually.
And the way the building's set up in the site, the existing access for the original facility came off of, Winooski, so, you know, it's all open and gravelled and already, and flat.
Have you done any testing on the slab to know whether that's gonna be usable? Last time I was out there, I thought it was in rough shape.
No. No, I'm assuming that they will go through and, I mean, I haven't seen any architecturals as far as, I mean, I've seen,
Yeah.
renderings, but no
No,
architecturals,
yeah.
so that would not be
Engineering.
done.
So in terms of seeker, at your last meeting, you declared your intent to serve as lead agency and typed the action as unlisted, but if you recall, we were waiting for an EAF to be submitted. They did submit the EAF, we did send the notices, but you cannot yet assume lead agency status because the mailings were performed on July 28th, and 30 days won't have elapsed until August 27th. So you can't do that yet. However, I did prepare an FEAF Part 2 that I sent to Sean for his review, so that would be ready for whenever this is next on the agenda. That'll be distributed to you, so you have that. And it's in your discretion if you'd like to schedule that public hearing.
How far out would we have to schedule it based on timeframes that you just mentioned?
So it's not a subdivision, so secret doesn't have to be completed prior to the public hearing being held. So you can do it whenever you would like. And if you do schedule it, I would just request that the applicant not submit new plans beforehand, so. But you may want some of the information that he has, so you could have that,
Sean,
those
what-
answers for
What
you.
does our schedule look like, Sean, for the next meeting, 2, 3, or 4?
Yeah, so the next meeting, you have two applications. You have 6 and 8 Gumwood, which is site plan for residential. It is more complicated than it sounds. And then you have Goshen Hospitality is requested to come back. That just came today. I haven't had a chance to email.
Do we know what they're coming back for?
Yeah, they're coming back for a modification of the site plan because they wanna go to 3 floors rather than 4. Well, they don't really want to, they didn't get the variances.
Bless you.
God bless you.
So the next one, you only have 2 applications, although I can't tell you how long they're gonna be. And then so far you have nothing listed for your September 18th meeting. But you will likely be getting Solar Liberty coming back for that.
Can I just ask another question about this? There's 1 well on the property, there's not, what else is connected to that well? And are these other buildings all connected to that well now?
I'd have to check.
You know, if you remember, I think there's, from when this originally came back in 2011, I think there are multiple wells. And I expect those to be determined by their hydrogeologists when they actually go out to the site.
Okay, I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Right now, it's so big and,
Okay, anyway. As far as scheduling the public hearing, we just heard that we have on September 4th, 6-8 Gumwood and Goshen Hospitality, modified site plan. That's right now what we have. Either we schedule for that or we schedule for the 18th, which would right now be the only thing scheduled for the eighteenth until we add more.
Correct.
We have a lot of open questions and a lot of missing information. You know, the purpose of the public hearing is for the public to be informed. And I feel like there's just too
Not
much
enough time.
information that's not been answered yet to rush a public hearing.
And that's if we were informed.
I don't think that's in the public interest.
I just, quickly, I mean, it seems like the big question is whether or not the existing buildings are connected to water and sewer. I don't think there were any
The
other.
buildings staying up or coming down?
They're staying up. We're not taking the buildings down. There's no proposal to take the buildings down. They're vacant. No proposal to take them down. If they do come back in the future for any of these buildings, they would absolutely have to come back.
Kelly, would they have to come back, or the pre-existing non-conforming buildings
Well, to take them down, they wouldn't have to come back.
to start using them again?
To start using them again, the use has probably been abandoned. I would defer to Frank, but
What's the I'm not sure it was abandoned, because if all the,
I don't know, that's why I said I'd have to defer to Frank. I don't know the history of each building.
I mean, we certainly would make it a condition if we occupied any of the buildings, that we'd have to come back to the planning board.
And likely the use that they would be proposing for the buildings, they'd have to come back, like the farm worker housing and things like that.
except that if the four bungalows there now that were used for farm worker housing, if they didn't remove them or change them, I don't know that.
But if they
that's
haven't used them like
abandoned.
that for 2
The
years,
applicant just said he'd come back. It doesn't matter, they could be using them
No,
today,
no.
he's saying he's gonna come back.
Okay,
You'll confirm before the public hearing
But how do you know
the
they're
number of
doing
employees, which obviously impacts
Yes,
water and wastewater.
right. I mean, I was told
Number.
15, and I've asked that question more than once, but I will ask again.
So it's the number of employees and if the other buildings are hooked up to the water, so that's it.
Yes.
Diana, just to answer that question, so it would be an enforcement action by the building inspector, right? So let's say somebody observed people living there, could be anybody. They contact the building inspector, he investigates the matter, he finds that people are living there. I presume he'd issue an order for that building to be vacated, and then he would take them to justice court, or maybe stay that until they come back and they get a approval from this board. That's how it, I mean, code enforcement is a complaint-driven business, as you know.
Yeah, so, and if they're dilapidated, they're gonna require building permits to renovate. And if there's language on the site plan or the resolution that it has to come back to the board, as Mr. Fowl indicated, that's how it comes back.
Okay,
So, in consideration of that,
I'm good. We can, when are we talking about?
Early
Either-
September
it's
meeting.
either early September with Goshen Hospitality and Gumwood. That's it, that's in,
Yes,
That's the
that's the fourth.
that's in Harriman.
It's the next meeting.
Antonio?
yes.
No,
Sounds like it's not in Harriman, it's here in
Arcadia.
Goshen.
Arcadia.
I would prefer that, but I'll be around for that one. I won't be around for the next meeting, but not that that matters, so I'll have somebody
I
else.
think it does, man. Really?
They'll be familiar with the questions we've been asking. Jeremy?
I'm fine with the earlier date then, time's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with the next meeting.
I'm good with early
Okay.
September.
It sounds like we could set up a public hearing for September fourth, so I need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Marty, second by Eric, all in favor, say aye. Against?
Thank you.
You got a public hearing, Joe?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we may have missed, what do you call it,
Gotham property,
yeah,
You good?
yeah,
I know that.
oh, okay.
I didn't close the meeting,
I know,
but Joe's not on one.
Joe is on that, I think what you have is a draft agenda. It was moved initially to another position on the agenda, but
it's funny, I asked Sean about it twice, and he just said, don't worry about it, don't
Yeah.
worry
No,
about
I've got Goshen copies on here.
And then your last dates.
I just wanted to mark down the date of the public
it.
hearing.
Ready or not. Just in public on video. Oh my God.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is Gotham Properties, otherwise known as Aurora Innovations, or formerly known as 24-1-100, 108.2, 112, and 113. We have a lot line adjustment application on 140.8 plus or minus acres on Pulaski Highway. County Route 6, in the agricultural industrial AI district of the Q6 and floodplain ponding overlays. And again, we're here to possibly consider a draft resolution. Welcome.
So I prepared for you a draft resolution of lot line adjustment, and let me just scroll through. So for this one, the first bold italics is on page 3, where I put at your meeting tonight, you determined that a public hearing on the application was not necessary. So you didn't make that determination
So
at
we
your
need a
last
motion.
meeting. Yes, please.
Could I have that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Phil, second by
Yeah.
Neil, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, okay? No public hearing, no longer bold.
No longer bold. Okay, and through your filings. And then there are,
Very few specific conditions.
yep, and then one additional specific condition, which is 1C, to revise the plat to show the correct location of the existing cell tower. Let me just make sure.
Okay, we have the two specific conditions plus the one that was just added. Do we have any comments from the board or any questions for Kelly?
I do not.
Neil, anything?
No.
Okay, if that's the case, then could I have a motion to approve the resolution of conditional preliminary and final approval for the lot line adjustment for Gotham Properties LLC and Casa Verde, Real Estate LLC?
I'll make it.
Neil, second by?
I'll second.
Diana, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Thank you very much.
There you go. Now you can have a good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Okay. As we already got the schedule for next meeting, are there any other concerns or comments from the board?
I have a question of Sean.
Uh-oh.
Maybe, you know, I'm not sure, or maybe Frank knows.
Frank knows.
Lino knows.
I'm the new guy.
Trial by fire.
In front of Pursune's solar, arrays, okay,
Hans Pursuit.
Hans
Yeah.
Pursuit.
Yeah, the son.
In front of those there is a woman that lives there, whose name escapes me at the moment, but anyway, she asked me if there should be lights walking through or in that array, because a lot of time, and she lives by herself, her husband passed away. So she's concerned, is somebody walking back there, or is there lights on those arrays? Are there any?
No, there's no
Not
lights tonight.
typically.
So then the question is, who's walking, or what are those lights? I was just wondering, I said, I'll ask.
There might be one light at the inverter,
It shouldn't be moving.
you know, for, I'm sorry?
It shouldn't be moving.
No, it definitely shouldn't be moving, no, so there might be one light at each inverter, but that's it. And that was really just for maintenance, if maintenance was required.
Okay, I'll talk to her about that. So she may be
She
contacting
lives
you.
walking around.
Due south of them?
maybe-
She's in front,
Yeah.
right next to the brown
Let's
board.
stay home instead of walking around.
Yeah.
Maybe she's seen a
I'll
reflection
walk
of planes going over, reflecting
I
off of
don't know, but she was really nervous about the whole thing, so she was like, I don't know if there's anybody back, she's an older woman,
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
like,
Don't worry, there was a summit.
Any
I
other
said I really haven't got a clue.
questions, concerns, or comments? Well, in that case, could I have a motion to close the meeting?
Actually, we have a comment, motion.
I was gonna get to Kelly.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna do that off the record, but okay.
I'm doing it, okay.
No, I think we should do it on the record.
Okay, in that case, could I have a motion to congratulate Kelly on her promotion? Will change.
You have the
County will
motion.
miss you dearly. Don't be a stranger, you know where we are.
Kelly.
Thank you.
I just wanna say, I was here for your first one, and I'm here for your last.
Thank you.
We know-
And you know what I
You
have in
have
my
big
office?
shoes to fill, maybe not
Big
that.
heels.
I don't know if
Very
those
first
are yours, but
message I
yeah.
ever received was from you, and I was like, nobody's ever gonna call me, so I saved it. I still have the message, and it says Neil called me, and I was like, oh my god, it's my very first message, so I still have it.
Well, good
Thank
luck.
you guys.
Best
I
of
When
luck.
do
really
you start your
appreciate
new job?
it. At the end of September,
Oh, the end of September.
because we still have to empty out the office from decades of stuff, so we're working on
Well, good-
Thank you very much
best of
for all
luck.
your work.
Yeah, thank you for
Yes.
everything you did, all
it. And I'm
those,
always here if everybody
all those
needs anything.
Saturdays you did for us,
I know.
for Lee, yeah,
He's
all
a-
those Saturdays he made
Forgot
you
to
work.
mention that, he makes you work Saturdays.
Oh, yeah, he'll definitely.
And some Sundays, but
Not too many Sundays, mostly Saturdays.
mostly Saturdays.
And you have all the work we assigned you ready by Saturday?
I was actually just doing the public hearing notice so that I could get that to Grace by tonight, so, because it has to be in the paper by tomorrow.
All the missing approval of minutes, are we kind of like just losing it?
No.
at this
No,
point, Or we're
actually.
working on it?
Well, I don't know about the older ones, I'm gonna have to track them down, but
And I was gonna see
your
what I could
June
do.
ones, I wasn't allowed to do them on vacation, but I.
Slowly but
She
surely.
was not. She
Okay.
was not allowed to do them on
No,
vacation by
absolutely
order
not.
of me,
Gotta have a true
because
vacation.
I have Ed.
But the old ones I'm gonna have to track down, I don't know if they were Tanya's or Kelly's,
If
but
they
I will
were
get them,
recorded.
if I have to go back to the recordings, I'll get
Yeah,
them.
okay. Yeah, it's just eventually, otherwise we're gonna need another sheet of paper on the agenda.
No, I will get them.
Could I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
All right, Roland, second by
I'll say.
Marty, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.